Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the first of 6 mindfulness meditation classes, an introduction to mindfulness. And this first class, we're going to talk about what mindfulness is, why we do it, how it can impact our lives, and any questions that you might have regarding it. I'd like to first start off by saying thank you for joining me, and I welcome you. All are welcome here, regardless of your age, race, ethnicity, background, identification in any of the ways that we identify ourselves. If you want to take a moment to share in the chat how you like to be referred, for example, what your pronouns are. They are she, her, he, him, they, their. If you also would be interested, I'd love to know what land you are seated on. So if you can put that in your name as well. For example, here I am seated on the Lenape land. Those are the indigenous people who stewarded this land for many, 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 many years before it was taken by Europeans who are my ancestors. So welcome. So welcome all of you, and welcome the whole totality of all that you are. Welcome to this space. All of you is welcome. All of you are welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Christine Deitcher, as you can see in the box on the screen. My pronouns are she, her. Again, I am on the Lenape land. I'd like to go over a few guidelines before we get started. Each week we are going to start the session with a 15-20 minute talk. I guess a 20-minute talk, teaching, and then we'll do a mindfulness. Let me go back and say this again. Each week, for the next 6 weeks, starting today, we will begin each session with a welcoming and a grounding exercise. And we will then have a teaching, and then we will meditate together, and then we will have time for questions and answers at the end. So this session and all the other sessions would last about an hour. And I'd like to begin real quick with a brief grounding practice just to bring us all together here into this space. If you're comfortable, you may close your eyes, and if that's not comfortable for you, you don't need to. I would suggest perhaps, though, picking something to rest your focus on or glancing downward. The point is that we want to keep our minds focused on where we are and what I'm saying. And it's hard to do that when we're looking around because sight is very good at activating thoughts. So we want to focus, and it's easier if we can close our eyes. But if that's not something that is doable for you, that's okay too. All right, so I'm going to close mine. And if you can, take a deep breath in, filling the lungs, and out. releasing. And with the air, try to release whatever tension you can notice in the body. And we'll do this in a focused way, starting with our, our muscles in our face. As we breathe in, you feel them. And on the out breath, try to relax them. Let's move to our neck, breathing in, focusing our attention on the neck. And as we breathe out, releasing the tension. Let's move to our shoulders, breathing in, bringing our awareness to the shoulders, maybe even still part of the neck space. And on the out breath, releasing that tension as best we can. A few more breaths. This time you can focus on any area of the body you feel tension. And release. A couple more. You can just breathe if that's what you desire to do. And now. On this last breath, I want you to feel your presence in this space that you're in. Feel the expansion on the in-breath. And as you release, allow that to ground your body in whatever it is that you are being supported by, whether it's a chair or if you're standing or you're lying down. Wherever your body is feeling a surface, just notice that support, that grounding. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes, come back to join us in the room. All right. So I'd like to also, before we get into a talk, go over the kind of the foundational ideals that we try to embody as the agreements for our multicultural interactions. And these come to us, they're an adaptation from Visions Incorporated, their guidelines for productive work sessions. And I'm just going to kind of read these and maybe expand on them a little bit if necessary. So try it on. We want to be willing to try on new ideas or ways of doing things that might not be what you prefer or that you're familiar with. So as we have discussions, we want to allow everyone to feel safe. And sometimes people will say things that we aren't so sure about, but just allow it. Just try if you can to allow what they are saying, to see, is there a way that it can feel more comfortable for you. We're going to also agree to practice self-focus. That is, we're going to attend to and speak about our own experiences and responses. And we're not going to speak for a whole group or express assumptions about the experience of others. We don't know what other people are thinking, so it isn't very fair of us, right, to presume that we know. What we do know is our own experience and our own perspective, so that we can share. We also want to agree to understand the difference between intent and impact. And this is one that I definitely recall struggle with. And essentially, it means we want to try to understand and acknowledge impact. Denying the impact of something said by focusing on intent is often more destructive than the initial interaction. This is really important. There is a tendency in our culture, it seems, well, I really shouldn't even say that. I know I have done it. Have a conflict with someone, and he said, well, you did this. And I said, but I didn't mean for it to be that. I didn't mean for you to take it this way or that way. And in that interaction, what I'm saying is, the way you're feeling is not valuable because I was trying to convey this information, and it's not my fault that you took it wrong, right? That's not very helpful, is it? So we want to remember that the way our words and our actions impact someone else is their experience, regardless of what our intention was. We have to honor that their experience was their experience, and what can we do to first address harm that they experienced that we contributed to. First, we need to work through that. Okay, that needs to be the focus, not what our intention was, but rather what they experienced. We also want to practice both and. When speaking, we're going to try to substitute and for but. And this practice acknowledges and honors multiple realities. We want to refrain from blaming or shaming ourselves and others. And we want to practice giving skillful feedback, trying to keep things on the positive spin when we can, rather than the negative. Move up, move back. We are going to agree to encourage full participation by all who are present. And we're going to take note of who is speaking and who is not. And if you tend to speak often, I ask that you consider moving back. And if you tend not to speak, I ask that you consider being a voice, bringing your voice forth. We're also agreeing to practice mindful listening. So try to avoid planning what you'll say as you listen to others. Be willing to be surprised, to learn something new. Listen with your whole self. Try to get kids to do this in elementary school. Listen with your full body, your full attention and awareness. That means every part of you is still and focused and paying attention. Not thinking about how you're going to respond or what that person is really trying to convey. Just taking everything that they say at face value, if you can. Let me backtrack on that a little bit. Maybe not at face value, but try not to we're going to not allow ourselves to put words in their mouth. Okay. All right. Confidentiality. We're going to take home the learnings, but we're not going to identify anyone other than ourselves, now or later. If you want to follow up with anyone regarding something they said in class, ask first and respect their wishes. So this part is being recorded. Only I am being recorded. You are not being recorded. And when it comes to the question and answer session, I will rename the question and then answer it so that no one is identified in terms of the questions. We'll keep those confidential. And lastly, a right to pass. You can say, I pass, if you don't wish to speak. Okay? So that's our agreements for my multicultural interactions. It's a lot. That's a lot to remember. And don't worry, we're going to go over that at the beginning of every session because they're really important and they benefit all of us. So, but some of them, maybe even many of them for some of us, are new ideas and difficult because they're new. So through practice, we'll get good at them. And then be able to bring them to other spaces that we inhabit, like our workspace and our school space or our out in the world space, our home space. They're good. They're good. You'll find the more you practice them as well, the more of a heartfelt sense you embody when interacting with others. And I think that's really important for our own well-being and for our larger society as a whole. All right, so let's get into it now. What is mindfulness? What is mindfulness? If you are here, you have probably heard of the word mindfulness and you've probably heard of the word meditation. And these two things are not really separate, and yet they're not the same. Mindfulness is awareness, this loving awareness that is paying attention. And meditation is what kind of is required to open up that ability to be more aware and attentive. So they work hand in hand, but they're not one and the same. I'd like to briefly read about meditation from a book called Cycles of the Soul by Gina Lake. And I feel like in this book, meditation is talked about really well. So let's do that. Meditation. What's most important to understand about meditation is not so much how to do it, since it's really easy to do and there's nothing tricky about it, or even why, as long as you're convinced enough to do it, but how often. How often is everything when it comes to meditation. Meditation that you do only once in a while will only be so helpful, even if you do it for fairly long. What's important is that you meditate daily, at least once a day for 45 minutes or more. The reason for this is that meditation is like training a muscle, and like muscles, meditation needs a regular workout where you get out of shape in a sense. What you're doing in meditation is training your brain to rest in another state, one other than the default state of consciousness, which is the egoic state of consciousness. To accomplish this, you have to spend time each day in a meditative state. Then you stand a chance of making that state your default state, which is the goal of meditation. As wonderful as meditation is, its purpose is not just to make you feel good when you're down, although it can do that, and that's certainly a good use of meditation. However, the basic state that most people live in, the egoic state of consciousness, which is not generally a terrible state of suffering, is still a state of suffering. Most people don't realize that they're living day to day in a contracted state, a tense state. That level of stress and negativity seems normal to most people. A daily practice of meditation will change that. It will make it possible to live in a much more relaxed and contented state, a state of presence. This is the goal of meditation, to live in presence most of the time. And this is possible. Plenty of people do live this way, but they probably meditate daily and have made living in presence a goal. It helps to know what your goals are, what your values are, what's most important to you. For most people, getting things done is a priority, and when that's the case, time spent in meditation is seen as a luxury, as unproductive time they don't have. But that isn't true at all. Meditation is a necessity, not a luxury, as it makes everything a person does more effective, more efficient, and more enjoyable. It ensures that the time you do spend doing things is well spent, as the choices you make from a state of presence will be determined by your inner wisdom, not the voice in your head. Once you become a regular meditator, some of the things that now take up your time might fall by the wayside. Many of the things that people do with their time are not as worthwhile as they seem, and meditation helps you see this, as you spend more time doing things that bring you joy and less time doing things that are about getting something your ego wants, such as shopping or working out or chatting with friends or watching television or YouTube. Most people spend a lot of time each day feeding the ego and little time feeding the soul. Once this changes, you feel different inside, and your life will change for the better. Living from presence is a different state of consciousness and the goal of the spiritual path. The point I want to make is that daily meditation is necessary to change your brain state more permanently. Without daily meditation, the changes the brain needs to make to become established in presence are nearly impossible or would take a great deal of time. Spiritual evolution is slow, and there are two things that will speed it up: meditation and transmission. If you think that reading books and absorbing more teachings will bring you the shift in consciousness you read about, then you're fooling yourself. For as important as teachings are, reading and listening to teachings will not change your brain. Only meditation will. So, briefly, I will explain the basic technique of meditation. First of all, with meditation, it's important to be very comfortable so that you can meditate for an extended period of time without moving your body. This is more important than holding your body in an upright posture, as is so often recommended by yoga and meditation teachers. So, make yourself very comfortable so that you can rest in one position without moving. Reclining at a 45-degree angle, propped up with pillows in bed or in a reclining chair, will make it easy to meditate for an hour or more, which will enable your meditation to be much deeper. Since meditation is essentially focusing your attention on one or all of the five senses, there are a few basic types of meditation. You will need to experiment with each of them to see which one works best for you. They are listening or sound meditation. In a listening meditation, you focus on a particular sound, such as a bell, a piece of music, or someone's voice in a guided meditation. Or you focus on the sounds in the environment as they arise. Or you focus on a mantra, an affirmation, or a prayer that you repeat silently to yourself. Breath meditation. This is the most common type of meditation that's taught, but that doesn't mean it's superior to the other types of meditation or best for everyone. The best meditation is whatever works best for you personally. Meditating on the breath is essentially a meditation or focusing on the sensations involved in breathing, the feel of the air as it enters and leaves your nose, and the sensations in your chest as it rises and falls with the breath. A variation on this meditation is counting your breaths or counting to a certain number on the in-breath, holding your breath for a certain count, and then exhaling to a certain count. Walking meditation. This is a meditation or focusing on the sensations, sights, and sounds involved in walking. Tai Chi, Qigong, and yoga, when yoga is done as a meditation, are other types of meditation similar to walking meditation that work well for those who are more kinesthetic and find sitting still challenging. However, for most people, a sitting meditation is recommended rather than a moving one because movement activates the mind. Gazing meditation. This is a meditation on a candle flame or on a picture of a guru or on an object or objects of beauty. You can have one focal point, such as a candle flame, or you can let your eyes naturally move from one object to another, being present to each. By the way, sight is the sense that is used the least as a focus in meditation. For most people, it's helpful to have your eyes closed or cast down during meditation, since looking at things activates the mind. Meditation on energy. Those who are sensitive enough to feel the energy of the subtle body can meditate on these more subtle sensations by simply noticing them without doing anything about them, just noting them and letting them be. Meditating on all the senses and subtle energy. This is a practice, usually done with your eyes closed, of simply noticing whatever you are noticing, whether it is a sound, a sensation in your body, your breath, or a more subtle energy. You give your attention to whatever you're aware of and let your attention naturally move as it will from one sensory experience to another. The basic instruction for all types of meditation is to focus on the sensations, sounds, and energetic experiences you're having. Inevitably, thoughts or feelings will arise, and when they do, notice them and then turn your focus back onto your mantra or breath, or the words in a guided meditation, or sounds in the environment, or sensations and energetic experiences your body is having. Whenever you catch yourself caught up in a thought, gently bring yourself back to your point of focus. Eventually, you'll catch those thoughts when they first arise, before you get caught up in them, in which case you notice them arise and return to focusing on whatever you're focusing on. The instructions for how to meditate are no more complicated than that. What's hard about meditating is doing it regularly and for long enough in one sitting to shift your consciousness. It takes most people, especially beginning meditators, 45 minutes or more before they drop into a deeper state. You'll know when you do because this feels a certain way, which is difficult to describe. Once you do, stay in that state a while. The longer, the better. At that point, you may be able to drop your meditation practice and just experience the state that the practice is taking you to. To quit meditating before you drop into that deeper state will undermine your practice of meditation, because meditating won't be as rewarding. Once you drop into this state more easily, you'll find yourself looking forward to meditating, and then making time to meditate each day will be much easier. But first, you often have to make meditation a priority and make a commitment to doing it daily for 45 minutes or more before it becomes a joy. Many people give up on meditating simply because they haven't stayed with meditation long enough and done it frequently enough to make it rewarding. I would also like to add that there's no such thing as a bad or failed meditation. Every effort you make to meditate is worthwhile and matters, whether you're aware of any results or not. Try not to hold goals in regard to your meditation, such as having a particular spiritual experience or developing in particular ways you've heard about from others. Meditation will change you in ways that may not be readily apparent. Spiritual progress is a mysterious thing, and the mind isn't able to assess or evaluate one's progress. The mind loves to tell the story that you aren't making any progress, so why continue? So watch out for the ways your mind might try to discourage you. Of course, the mind doesn't want you to meditate. Those guiding you in other dimensions are aware of your efforts to meditate, and these efforts signal them that you are committed to your spiritual growth. When they see your commitment to meditate, they'll concentrate more of their energies on helping you with your spiritual progress. Please do not underestimate the involvement of spiritual forces. Know that when you set aside time to meditate, you draw to you assistance from other dimensions. They are assisting you in healing and elevating your consciousness. So be sure to ask for their help before you start meditating. It's always helpful to say some sort of prayer that expresses your sincerity to heal and progress spiritually, and one that calls forth help from other dimensions. Meditation is a time for becoming closer and more connected to those who are guiding you. Know that they are there, supporting you in your efforts, and ask them for help when you feel you need it. We will stop there. And before we begin our meditation practice, I just want to remind you to find a comfortable position, whether it's sitting or lying down, perhaps even standing, but that sounds like it wouldn't be very comfortable for 45 minutes or so. Taking another big breath in and out. Continue with a few deep breaths if you can. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And if not, focus on something to look at that is in a downward gaze. Begin to sense how your body is feeling in this moment. Do you feel any tension that can be released on an exhale? Is there pain, discomfort anywhere? If you're feeling any pain or discomfort, you may put your more attentive awareness on that sensation and see what happens. If it intensifies, then move your focus to some other part of the body and see if you can feel that part of the body, whether it's like a foot or a hand, an elbow, a shoulder, arm, or a leg. See if you can feel that part of the body from the inside outward. And it might sound strange to feel from the inside out. And if that doesn't seem attainable, Feel where your body is being supported by something, whether it's the ground, the earth, a chair, bed, a sofa, wherever your body is moving an object that is supporting you. And put your attention on the part of your body that is being supported, and what does that feel like? What does that support feel like for you right now? You are supported in all that you do, in everything you have ever accomplished. There has been support. You may be aware of the support, or you may not. But support is always here for you, always. I'm going to set our timer for 45 minutes. And when the meditation is over, you will hear me ring a bell. And ring the bell now so that you know what it will sound like. Just remember, this meditation is a focus on sensation. So our awareness is laser focused on whatever it is that is supporting our bodies right now. Whether that's a chair, a bed, a sofa. We're putting our awareness where our body meets that object, and just experiencing the sensation in the body at the location where it meets another object, whether it's a chair, the sofa, or whatever it is. As we breathe in and out as comfortably as we can. For some of us, that's very slow and deep. For others, it's a long breath. If a thought arises, or shall I say, when a thought arises, you can observe the thought briefly And then take your attention and place it back on the part of your body that is experiencing sensations from being interest. You may also focus on the breath if that's more attainable for you. In that case, it may be helpful to put your hands on your belly to feel it arrive. Truly on the fall and rise on the inhale and the fall on the out breath. And your hands over your heart. Feeling sensations in the hands and the breath. And anytime your mind wanders to a thought, just notice that thought is there and refocus your attention back to the breath or the sensation. Do you try to stick with the same anchor, whether that anchor is the breath or its sensations? Perhaps you're still finding it difficult to have focus. And sometimes when this happens, it can be helpful to give the mind something else to do. It's very difficult for the mind to say words in the mind and also have thoughts in words. So if your thoughts tend to come in words, like, ooh, I'm not really having any thoughts right now, which is a thought, right? So if that is your experience, or if you just want to give it a try, I suggest using a mantra. My favorite mantra, and one I think is pretty universal, is called the Soham mantra. Soham is Sanskrit for I am, which really doesn't matter what it means. What matters is how it works. And so I like Soham because I like to take a deep breath in as I inwardly say, in my mind say, so, and then on the out breath, so, So in between so and hum, there's a slight pause as I transition from the in breath to the out breath. So saying a mantra may be helpful. You can employ more than one of these anchors to help, but do stay with them. If you're going to add an anchor like so hum while focusing on the breath, which is what I tend to like to do. So on the in breath, pause, hum, the out breath. So on the in breath, pause, hum, the out breath. And just stay with them, the duration. our anchor. As I also find it helpful in the beginning of the meditation to extend my in-breath as long and slow as I can. Hold before breathing out for a second or two, and then breathe slowly out, trying to match the duration and force with the exhale to the duration and force of inhale. This technique was taught to me over 15 years ago by my sensei, Master Hoto. I never call him sensei if it's for Tai Chi, but he is the person I studied Tai Chi with, and meditation was part of our Tai Chi practice. Even though Tai Chi is in itself a moving meditation, we would begin practice with 20 minutes of sitting meditation before moving on to Tai Chi practice. I found that by breathing in and out slowly and deeply at a matching rate of force and speed, that in about 3 to 5 breaths now, I can go from my normal state of consciousness to my meditative state of consciousness. And it's very quick, much quicker than 45 minutes. So I invite you to try it and see how it works for you. And then one last thing I'd like to do that will officially begin our sit is silence anyway, the silent part of our sit. Is I would like to lead us in a short prayer, and it goes like this. You can repeat this inwardly to yourself if you want. For all of today, I will trust. For all of today, I will love. For all of today, I will be true to myself and others. For all of today, I will give thanks for my many blessings. For all of today, I will be kind to my neighbor and every living thing. I am open, ready, and willing to receive whatever I need to awaken more fully to my divine nature for the good of all and in alignment with my highest good. I invite all energies working in the highest, kindest, compassionate, loving space and energy to join with you now. May love be my guide. May love be our guide in this moment and always. Now it's time to bring our awareness back into the room, into this group that we are in together. I hope you feel calm and refreshed. You may notice a certain energetic vibrancy in the body. You may think of this, or it may feel to you like a tingling sensation, particularly in the feet or the hands. And if you don't have that experience, that's okay too. If you are new to meditation, it is something that does develop. It is part of the pleasantness that was being discussed in the excerpt of the book from Gina Blake that I read. And I invite you to just notice where you are right now in terms of your beingness. If this, sometimes even experienced meditators have different sitting practice that is more challenging than others. Sometimes it can be very easy to get into the flow, that rhythm of the breath, and watching the breath, noticing the thoughts, allowing them to go as we put our awareness back on the breath, whatever your anchor is for that sit. Sometimes we can spend a great deal of time in the meditation sit where we are feeling emotionally triggered, maybe frustration or an irritability. Perhaps there is an anxiety or a restlessness that arises. This can happen when we kind of force ourselves to sit and practice when our mind is still racing in some other direction. That's why I'd like to gently bring us into a long practice like this one was, through a teaching, and that was followed by a short grounding exercise or mini meditation. But now that we're bringing our awareness back into this space of communication, it's time to just feel in to the calmness, the peacefulness that is here. That feeling of relaxation. Every meditation sit can be a mini vacation for the body, mind, and spirit. Sometimes I find my meditation practice is particularly helpful on days that follow nights that I did not get as much sleep as the body requires. In those days, my meditation practice can act as a little booster, not quite, not sleep like a nap, but actually more rejuvenating than if I had spent that same amount of time in sleep. So meditation can be wonderful for that practice as well, though it is recommended and ideal, certainly, to get the amount of sleep at night that your body requires. That varies from person to person, of course. Generally is recommended between 7 and 8 hours or 9 hours for most of us that are adults. as we get older, and when we're younger, we require more sleep. We're here to talk about meditation, not necessarily sleep. So I invite anyone who has a question to pose their question. And if you don't have a question, but you have a general comment or something you'd like to share, you're welcome to share your experience of either the teaching or this meditation. I invite that. Please try to stick, if you can, as best as you can, to our agreements for multicultural interactions. I'll briefly go through them again real quick. Try it on. Practice self-focus. Understand the difference between intent and impact. Practice both and. Refrain from blaming or shaming yourself or others. Move up, move back. Practice mindful listening, confidentiality, and right to pass. With that, I welcome any questions. Okay, with this first question, see if I get this right. Okay, this first question refers to posture. And the question, I think, is speaking explicitly to the practice that we just had, sit that we just had. And the question is, I felt like my foot was falling asleep, and I wasn't sure if it was okay for me to change my position to allow my circulation to flow more properly again, because the reading that you read before starting the meditation said there, like, placed emphasis on the importance of keeping in the same posture. So this person wants to know, and I hope you did move, by the way. I hope that you did. Oh, good. So the question is, how important, I guess, is it that we maintain the same posture? Well, I think that you're going to find that there's going to be occasions where, excuse me, you feel like you just can't sit still. As soon as you get comfortable, you'll have an itch, right? Like your nose will itch, or you'll feel like there's this hair that's in your face, and things like that are going to come up. Or maybe all of a sudden you'll really have to go to the bathroom. These things happen. My recommendation would be to sit with it for a few moments, as long as you can tolerate it. And then when it feels right for you, change your posture, scratch that itch, or get up and go to the bathroom. The reason I invite you to sit with whatever sensation you're experiencing just for a few moments, doesn't have to be long. If all you can tolerate is 20 seconds, that's fine. But there is something to the practice of being with something uncomfortable that helps us expand, like a rubber band, like stretch our resiliency, become more resilient to unpleasantness. And that's important because life has unpleasantness to it. None of us escape unpleasantness. So if we can consciously build that resilience, the resiliency, and be able to stretch and expand ourselves to push ourselves to experience that which we find uncomfortable, even if it's for a short time, then before we switch over to the attitude of, okay, now I'm going to do something about it. We just want to sit with that attitude of, I'm going to bear witness to this unpleasant experience, and just sit with that for a few moments before making the shift to, now I'm going to do something to change my experience. Does that answer feel complete for you? Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here with me and joining me for this first of 6 sessions on the introduction to mindfulness. If you have questions that weren't addressed today, please feel free to send me or put it in the comments section. Reach out to me personally if you know how to do that, and if you don't, you can put that in a comment and I can reach out to you so that you have that information. And I invite you to practice each day until we meet again next week. And 45 minutes may seem like a very long time. It's probably easier to do in this group session than on your own. So I invite you to practice for 10 to 15 minutes each day. That I hope will feel manageable for you. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, have many, many wonderful moments and enjoy your practice. Namaste.